This video we're going to assemble the lathe stand, and I'm going to do some modifications to it. We can talk about how people set their lathes up here for a minute. I've seen in my research and going online, people do all kinds of different things. The most common thing is to get like a tool chest, a roll around tool chest, and put the lathe on top of that, be it a metal top or wood. A lot of them have hardwood. I didn't go with that option. I really don't want to move the lathe. I'd like it more stable. And I've seen people put them on the heavy-duty steel tables, which cost as much as, if not more than, the factory stand. Put them on just benches and that. The thing I don't like about wood is wood will compress over time in use, and you know, you're trying to hold 1,000ths in that, it'll move around. But a lot of it depends on what you're doing with the lathe, and if you can get by doing it like that, that's fine. I wanted the lathe to be put in one place, stay there, and I like the fact, you know, it has the holes already pre-drilled, other than like going and buying a steel bench or steel table. You know, I went with this option. And some people stay away from these, and I'll tell you why here in a second. They don't like the quality on it and the thickness of the metal. But we're going to go for it and see how it goes. One thing that you have to remember with any machine, be it a lathe or a mill, the more solid it is on the floor and the more rigid it is, the less problems you're going to have. Now, some people aren't quite happy with these machines or these stands that come because, as you can see right there, okay. There was a guy with a milling machine. He couldn't get a cut real close, and come to find out, just this top wasn't square, and he had to shim it up and get it to work. And then once he did that and got the machine rigid, shimmed up it, you know, he was all right. So, and there's a lot of different things to modify these stands. Some people go and create angle iron frames and put wheels on it, or levelers. There's guys I've seen with larger machines that, you know, bolt or weld a piece of angle iron to the back of this and then put leg levelers. What I did is I went out and bought these feet, or little levelers. Okay, they're 1/2 inch 13. I got them from was Enco, it's now MSC. But what I found on the bottom of these cabinets, and what I'll do is I'll turn one around and we'll take a look at it, and I'll show you the problem. Alright, here's our bottom of the stand. And like I said, it's set up so you would sink threaded rod into a cement floor and bolt this to the floor. The thickness of this piece of metal here, a little over 200,000ths, not quite 1/4 of an inch. And using this 1/2 inch 13 leveling foot, there's not enough material there for this to rest, because you got to remember the whole stand is going to rest on these threads, maybe this nut, you know. So I kind of wanted more thickness, reinforce this. So what I did is I found at work a piece of 2 inch wide, 3/8 of an inch thick steel, and luckily there was enough there that I could cut 4 pieces, and it's about 19 3/4 of an inch. It isn't quite 20 inches. Cut 4 pieces and then use this to reinforce the bottom of the stand. And my plan is to take a couple bolts, 1/4 inch 20, and they're long enough. I'll put these like 2 here, sink them down, and they're long enough where I can get a nut on up inside there, and then tighten it, and that will attach this to the stand. Then, now I got this kind of reinforced, and I can go here and here and drill and tap for the 1/2 inch 13 and put my feet on, my leveling feet. Good plan, but then run into a snag, and it's kind of strange because both of these stands are the same way, the way they're made. They're like folded over, welded up, and then you can see where under the paint where it's been ground. And both of them, the inside side is pretty good, but the outside, as you see, it isn't flat. It's like bowed. This piece of plate is up in the air here and here. Or if you go on the inside, it's pretty square and straight. There's no movement or nothing. It's got to be in the way they make it, you know. And you can see the grind where they ground the welds and that. And I believe it's sturdy enough, but like you've seen it rocked. And like I said, you want to be as stable and as rigid as possible. So I kind of was racking my brain with my game plan here, and then, you know, basically what it is, I have a reinforced thing that, you know, with the legs, I'll level it and reinforce the base. That's the plan. But I don't know how this is going to affect it with this bow in there. If, you know, this is kind of flat, and then when I'm going to secure it, but I don't know when running the machine if that will create a problem or we'll have to come back to it. That I don't know yet. But we're going to, that's the idea of my modification. We're going to give it a try. I'm not saying it's the right way or the only way. It's just kind of a thing I'm going to come up with and see if it works. See what we end up with in the end here. Alright, now I'll take you through the steps of how I modify this. First thing you want to do is take your material, wipe it down with solvent, get it nice and clean, let it dry. I used, I think, alcohol or something. Just wipe it off, clean it up. Then you need layout fluid. This here is kind of the cheap kind I got from one place I work. You can use Dicom, or Dicom's the best, and used by most machinists. And I got one already done, but you want to coat the surface with layout fluid, because we're going to scribe our lines and we're going to drill and tap our holes. So, make it easier to see. You give them all a coat of layout fluid. I never really liked that stuff. The Dicom's a lot better. Alright, now we'll go on to our next step. What we do, we take our part with the bluing on it, put it up on our thing, our stand, kind of line it up, get it in the center, take a couple C-clamps. This is what's going to hold it in place while we work on it. Give it a last check. Tighten these bad boys down. Now the key is, once you get these clamps tightened, until you drill and tap and put the screw in, you don't want to take them off. Now basically, we're going to do this by eye. We want to go about right in here and here. Put them 2 1/4 inch 20 screws. So we get our combination square. And we get a scribe. And the combination square is set at 1/2 inch. So that should put us in the center. We know we kind of want to go there. So we scribe a line here. And again, we know we want to go in here. So we scribe a line here. Alright. We got our two scribe lines. Since this isn't too precise, we'll just take a regular scale, hold it up to the edge, somewhat straight. That's about where we want to screw. Scribe our other line. Same thing here. Want to sink that sucker about right there. Scribe our line. Alright. Now we have our little X's on there. Got this neat little stair automatic prick punch. And how you do this in layout work is you take the point of the punch. It's hard to show you. But what I want to do is line it up with the point and then slowly rotate it back till it's straight. And that's how this hand is bad here. But that's how you do it with a punch or whatever to do your prick punch to get where your hole is going to start. And then this you just push down. And pretty close. My eyes and that ain't what they used to be. Okay. Now we got a little start in there. And that will give you enough of an indentation to where you could go with the other punch. Basically, it's a matter of by feel finding it, and then with a hammer. Now you put a big prick punch mark, and that's big enough to where the center drill point will locate on that and not walk when we start drilling, which is going to be our next step. Okay, now we have a number 3 center drill in our hand drill. Make sure it's going the right way. I wasn't using this for something else. We got our prick punch mark. Line the point of the center drill up. Try to get it as straight as possible. Try not to break it. Guess I gotta lean into this. Almost there. There we go. Now I got a nice centered drill spot. I guess I gotta just work on my upper body strength. But there we go. I just didn't want to break that tip off. So there we got our spot. Okay, we're going to go with a 1/4 inch 20 tap. So we want a number 7 drill. And I kind of forgot a little bit of cutting fluid. Tap MAGIX pretty good. Good general all-around shop cutting fluid. So we got our spot. We get our drill lined up. And get her through. A little cutting fluid. It's steel, and it went through that bar pretty easy, but that steel in the frame is pretty tough stuff. It slowed that drill right down. But luckily we got the grinder running so we could resharpen the bit. Okay, and I'm going to drill the other hole and get back to the tapping. Alright, we got both holes drilled. So now we want to deburr it before we tap. Take a file and hit the back side underneath there. And this steel that this cabinet is made out of is pretty tough and nasty. Well, I'm going to get that first. Okay, we kind of knocked this down. The reason we did it is because I am going to put a nut on the back. And so I want to get the burr off. Now, you want to kind of deburr also the top. I got like a number, I don't know, 6, it's worn off, center drill. Now, bear in mind that little drill point on the center drill here is smaller than a tap drill size. All I want to do is use that other part, the angle part here. Put a little chamfer on the hole. The reason is to aid, just break the edge to aid in guiding the tap down. I'm not going to use a tapping block or anything. I got this crappy tap handle made in India. That's back in the days before everything came from China. And you try to hold it as straight as you can. Get it started, and yes, it came loose. Alright. Okay, now we're back. The thing about hand tapping, see this handle sucks, is you just keep even downward pressure on the tap to keep it straight. And then once you get it started, a couple threads in, and you're home free. You just crank it down. And this is a through hole, so you don't have to worry about backing. Going back and forth. But that's what we do, is run our tap down, and we're just about through. Right there. That's the tapping phase, so we get both holes tapped. Alright, now for our final phase of this modification, take a 1/4 inch 20 bolt, run that down in there. Nice and tight. And like I said, they're long enough and there's enough room. Take a 1/4 inch 20 nut and tighten that down in there with a wrench till it's flat. And then you got them both down, you can take the clamps off. And what I'm going to do is I got to do this 3 more times to the other the other legs or stands. And then you take off your seat clamps. And there's your reinforcement modification. Okay, and then the next step would be identical to what I did. Just lay out. Probably here, I will do it not all the way towards the end. Probably try to keep it in line or a little bit off this front with the one leveling leg. And because the back's straight, lay it out and set another leveling leg there. And it's the same deal. Lay it out, drill and tap the holes. The only difference in doing those holes, the only difference is because I want the tap to be as straight as can be, I made a tapping block, you know, and basically what that'll do is once I get the hole drilled, I'll put that in there with the tap, and it holds the tap straight over the hole. Helps me keep the tap straight. Probably when I do one, I'll get back and show you. That's the only difference. I didn't use a tapping block for this because basically once it gets through and I get the bolt in the back side, it locks this down, and that's all I needed to do. If I had a tapping block, probably would have come out better, but those are just fasteners to hold this plate in place for me to get the rest of it done. So I got some work to do, and I'll get back when I get to the point where I'll show you how this tapping block works. That's about the only thing different. And then we'll get the feet on this and assemble the rest of the stand. Alright, we're getting down in the nitty gritty here. We're getting down to mounting the feet. Now, what I decided to do with the part where the plate would sit up is after I put these little bolts down to secure it, I clamped it down. And that kind of bent the plate down. Then drilled it and I tapped it. And like I said, I did the same thing before. The only difference is because of the size of this drill for the half 13, I step drilled. So in other words, I put the center drill, a drill around 300 thousandths, then the 4, 10, whatever the tap drill size is for the 1/2 inch 13. And I made, because the larger taps are hard to get straight, so I made a tapping block. That's what this is here. And basically all it is just a sleeve that you put over the hole, and it helps keep the tap straight while you get it started. So we got it down in there, and then my idea is to leave the clamp, drill it, tap it, and then run the threaded rod down in there, and hopefully that will keep the plate down and take up the slack. Now what I've done on these feet is there's a little nut here. We're not going to have access to the back side to clamp, so I'm just going to use it like as a washer. Once I get the height right, I'm just going to kind of bring this up and just finger tight so it don't vibrate loose. But how I'm setting these as I go, drilling and tapping, I run the nut all the way down, and then I screw this down till it's flush. I'm not going to waste time and show you, but you get the idea. I run this down with the nut touching till it's flush, then I go back 1, 2 turns with a wrench. I'll do that once I get the clamp off. And then all my feet will be at least 2 turns up when I'm done. That way it gives me room to move one way or the other. So that's where we're at there. So we're getting to where we're putting the feet on, and it's been a while. It's taken me a little bit longer than I thought, because all right, now that's in through there and through the material. Let's see if we get any movement. after we remove the clamp. No, it didn't move, but you can feel it drawing on this. Okay, so it's trying to move, but it's held in place. So like I said, I take my wrench, run it down, and then 1, 2, and just glide this off there. And then that's how I'm going to get all 8 feet, and then flip it up, and we'll go on to finishing the assembly of the stand. But be warned, this steel, you know, going through this cold roll steel is easy. And you can feel when the drills in it hit this little thin piece of metal, it is tough. It dulls up drills, be ready to sharpen drills and everything else. It gives a lot of resistance, and it's nasty stuff. But okay, we're almost ready to where we're going to start putting it all together and standing it up. Alright, after working all day, I got the leveling feet on these 2 pedestals done. I don't know if you can see them. But now I'm going to assemble the stand. I'm going to get it close to where I'm going to end up putting it, because I don't know how rigid this thing's going to be or how easy it's going to be to move. But what you get in the package is this pile of bolts. Bolts, lock washers, nuts, washers. And you also had these studs with 4 studs with nuts, lock washers, washers, and I believe they fit in here. So they give you 4 bolts in that package to mount the lathe to the top. And like I told you, they had 2 over there for the headstock, and this has 4. So this must be set up for 2 different size machines to use the same stand. Now the rest of the stuff, just bolts, washers, lock washers, and nuts. And yes, the Allen wrench and open end wrench you will need is in the toolkit. And the directions are here. It shows you panels. I got one of these face panels on. I'm going to put that one on, the other one, and then according to the directions, hold on, this thing here kind of mounts over here and connects the 2. So my plan is to get these things here, these brackets on, then I'm going to move and position these and kind of bolt them together with this. Then there's those 2 large plates. They're both the same. One goes top and bottom. Got one of them here, yeah. This thing here, and then they bolt together in 3 spots after it goes up kind of like this. So I'm not going to, because this is going to take a while, I got to figure out what's going on here. But that's what you got. And like I said, I'm going to get the side brackets there on for the front plates and position them too and get that cross section up and tight, and then see what I end up with. But that's where I'm going with this. That's the plan, and try to get it close, because like I said, I don't know what, if this is going to be tight, movable, or I'm getting to the point where I'm going to need 2 people here. So I'm going to try to assemble this and let it set, and then I'll show you what the outcome is, and that'll be the end of this video. Well, there it is all together. It is somewhat, not super rigid, but I can, move it, kind of get it back straight again. Not too bad. I think with 2 people lifting up on it, it'd be easier to move. I don't know if that twisted anything here doing that or not. But yeah, you know, you probably should lift it with 2 people and get it and try to square it up. Tightened it down as best I could. That's your bolts and washers. Fancy doors to fancy handles there and some shells. And we got the leveling feet in there. So basically I'll take some measurements, figure out where I got to set it from the wall, figure out how the chip pan and that's going to go in there, and probably just get it in more of the position I want it, put a level on top of the stand and try to get it level. And then it'll be time to lift the machine and get it up on there. And that's probably where I'm going to take that splash guard off, the chuck and everything else. So we'll have a video where we get this thing prepped to be lifted up and moved out of the way. Alright, so that's it for the stand assembly and modification. We'll see how it all works out once we get the lathe up on there and try getting it level.